Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
In a top 5 list of the most New York things ever, Saturday Night Live has to be near the top, right? The show is celebrating its 50th season on the air. But for more than a decade, SNL and hundreds of other TV and film productions have benefited from the New York State Film Tax Credit. And that program
incentivizes projects to either locate in New York or do their post-production in New York.
That's Yoni Boxer, the executive director of the New York State Governor's Office of Motion Picture and TV Development. It's part of Empire State Development, the state's economic and investment arm. We'll get back to him in a moment. Since the third quarter of 2016, which is as far back as the state data is easily found, New York State has given film and TV productions more than $5.8 billion. That's billion with a B. And the tax credit is a direct reimbursement, meaning the state cuts the production company a check. And a production can receive as much as 30% of its production expenses back from the state. Some of your favorite films and programs have received tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of dollars from this tax credit program. Saturday Night Live, $124 million. One season of The Gilded Age, $52 million. 3 seasons of Succession, $64 million. The Irishman, $35 million. Remember that prison escape from the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York in 2015? The state gave Showtime $21 million to tell the story about how 2 people escaped a state-operated prison. According to a report about tax incentive programs funded by the State Department of Taxation and Finance, the film credit program doled out billions of dollars and has created about 114,000 jobs. That report indicates, quote, the program does not provide a positive return to the state in terms of direct state tax revenue, with only 15 cents in revenue for every dollar invested. In terms of jobs, the report looks at the industry employment all the way back to the 1970s through 2022. In 1970, New York employed 21% of the film and TV industry. In 2022, it was 17%.
So you have to ask yourself, what's the return on investment here for this humongous taxpayer expense? And our answer is not very good.
John Caney is the executive director at the watchdog group Reinvent Albany. And one of the many reasons they're critical of the program is because
this money is off budget. So they actually take the subsidy out of revenue before it is transferred into the general fund. So it's never appropriated. And that's one of the reasons for its political success.
Is there really any oversight or scrutiny in terms of who's getting this and why?
I mean, it's pretty obvious, and Saturday Night Live is an example that is used over and over again of a place where it's, it's iconic. They literally use the New York City skyline and shots of street life in their opening and have for 50 years. They're not going anywhere. It's fairly ridiculous, and what it amounts to is just a massive, massive handout.
But Yoni Boxer argues otherwise.
They had a recent movie they made about Saturday Night Live, but they filmed it in Georgia because they had more aggressive tax credits.
That report by the Department of Taxation and Finance was extremely critical of the program, saying that, quote, the film production tax credit is at best a break-even proposition and more likely a net cost to New York State. It went on to say that, quote, the credit is more of an ongoing subsidy than a point-in-time incentive. And that's evident when you look at the quarterly production tax reports issued by the state. Series like SNL, Blue Bloods, Law & Order, Elementary, Madam Secretary all received tens of millions of dollars year after year.
The cost per job is about $75,000 in taxpayer subsidy for one full-time job equivalent for 1 year. Is that a worthwhile, efficient investment of taxpayer money? We would say no way.
Is it fair to say then this tax credit program is really a defense mechanism from productions leaving New York and going elsewhere like Canada, Georgia, Louisiana, elsewhere?
The program works to attract and retain jobs in New York.
During Governor Hochul's time in office, she has substantially increased the amount of money the state hands out to production companies. The cap for the incentive jumped from $400 million to $700 million per year in 2023, and the governor is proposing an additional $100 million in this year's budget, which would make the cap a total of $800 million annually. Why is it necessary for the state to continue to increase this tax credit program?
It's important that we attract productions here, and as the industry continues to grow, we want to have more tools to attract them here.
Trying to get elected leaders to talk about the DJ Granville cover-up scandal involving Buffalo Police and the Erie County Sheriff is not easy.
Again, with me having so little of the information at this point, it'd be difficult for me to comment on it.
It's a car accident, and I don't have a comment on that.
Buffalo Common Council member David Rivera takes a different view.
There's just a lot of questions, and we don't want people to think that we're going to stay silent on this.
Buffalo police denied a Freedom of Information request from Two on Your Side. We asked for body camera footage that might indicate whether the sheriff's narco chief showed signs of intoxication.
Is it suspicious to you that there doesn't seem to exist any body camera footage of the responding officer? Is that troubling?
It is very troubling. If that is accurate and there are no cameras, we want to know why their procedures weren't followed and what are the repercussions for not following the procedure. It's hard for me to fathom why cameras wouldn't be on.
Sheriff, is your office conducting its own investigation into Chief Granville's conduct?
The short answer is no. Yes.
Rivera says that makes no sense, since Buffalo's internal affairs probe may only address whether Granville's sister-in-law, a police lieutenant, helped him cover up the crashes.
I believe that the sheriff's department can do their own investigation. They should have done their investigation from the very beginning, a year ago.
Rivera, who chairs the council's Police Oversight Committee, wonders why the sheriff's Accident Investigation Unit did not respond when 7 parked cars in his West Side district were damaged.
They're the ones that were being sued as well. So you think that they would say, hey, we better look into this. This involves one of our officers, a high official. It involves one of our vehicles. It involves taxpayers' dollars in terms of settlements that are going to be offered out.
He also rejects Garcia's characterization of the crashes as just a car accident.
So just to say it was an accident, based on what? Did you do any investigation? Did you look into it? Did you talk to anybody other than saying, hey, it's up to the Buffalo Police Department? I don't think that's the way they operate. I don't think that's the way it should operate.
At PS 33 Bilingual Center, one of several bilingual schools in Buffalo, teachers are seeing the impact firsthand. Linda Moras, a second-grade bilingual education teacher, tells me she has spent years ensuring students receive education in Spanish. Now, she says, that right is being taken away.
I was always taught that education was a fundamental right, not a privilege.
For years, bilingual students in Buffalo schools receive response to intervention services in their home language to help them catch up in reading and other subjects. But Linda says those interventions were quietly removed without notifying teachers or parents.
RTI is not mandated in English. It should be given to our students in their home language, especially in bilingual schools, all bilingual schools.
Linda says the district's decision comes despite research showing that bilingual students learn best when their first language is supported. Linda says removing Spanish RTI doesn't just hurt academic progress. It risks mislabeling students as needing special education when they really just need proper language support.
Our students, when they need referrals for assistance, when they need special education services, they're gonna start misclassifying them again, like a long time ago.
She says the decision also raises questions about equity. The reading curriculum used for bilingual students was already outdated, one that was deemed not good enough for English language students, but kept for bilingual learners.
They should have the same rights or the same materials.
In a statement, the district says Public School 33 continues to follow its 50-50 dual language model, with RTI alternating between Spanish and English each semester. The district says it's also working with school leadership to ensure students have the resources they need. For Linda, this fight is personal. Her father was a civil rights advocate who fought to bring bilingual education to Buffalo. She says watching those rights unravel now is unacceptable.
So who's gonna speak up for them? I've gotten in so much trouble speaking up for them. I don't care anymore. Like, who's gonna be their voice?
The Thomas Indian School, a former boarding school in Irving, was taken over by the state in the late 1800s and closed in 1957.
A lot of atrocities occurred there.
According to historians and nation leaders, children were abused. Some died.
Dealing with the past has to take place in order to have a foundation to move forward.
Last year, President Biden offered an apology on behalf of the nation for the federal boarding schools after indigenous survivors told their stories to the federal government.
By the governor agreeing to come and apologize for the state's role at the Thomas Indian School is a huge event.
He says it will help heal the nation and improve relations with the state.
He's going to come to our territory and at the site of the Thomas Indian School, and I think she'll be well received. I think for a leader to come and acknowledge and apologize for something that happened all these many years ago, and she said, it's the state's moral responsibility to acknowledge and apologize for what had occurred there.
I asked President Seneca why this is important.
That school was operated by the state of New York to basically strip our people of our identity. It took children from their homes. It put them in a school. They didn't have contact with the parents. The parents couldn't contact the children. The parents lost their parental rights.
Intergenerational trauma is a term you will often hear on the Seneca Nation about that school.
We have to deal with the past to be able to move forward in the future. And I think that's the message that I want to send out there.
The president also discussed other issues with the governor, including the gaming compact, the influx of illegal drugs on the territory, the Route 17 unkept promises agreement, and the dumping of sewage into the Allegheny River in Olean. On your side in Buffalo, Claudine Ewing, Channel 2 News.
It's a $5 million initiative. The Conditional Adult Use Retail Dispensary Grant Program, also known as CARD. Sheldon Anderson, the co-owner of Public Flower, says these funds could help cover startup costs.
We actually just submitted our application. We received the application number, so that was positive, and so we're just excited for the opportunity to actually utilize the funds to become more efficient and help grow the business.
What they're applying for really is to get paid back on expenses that they've already paid for. So what they'll have to do in order to get this grant is you would use receipts and things that you've already paid for, being like security, your point of sale systems, if you were doing like renovations on your leased location.
Anderson says he believes investment in licensed dispensaries can benefit communities because of the New York State Cannabis Revenue Fund.
In the Western New York area, it's been over $1 million worth of tax revenue that's been generated. So that goes to schools, that goes to education, that goes to cops, firefighters.
Anderson adds he believes the Office of Cannabis Management is doing their part to support businesses like his.
We were effectively impacted by the war on drugs in New York State, and so it's important that the state, try to fix the wrongs of the past and try to provide us not only the license in order to actually sell legally, but also provide us the tools and resources to help us kind of grow and actually have a really successful business.
After that war of words between President Trump and especially Ontario Premier Doug Ford on energy products flowing between the countries with numerous cross-border connections, now some analysis on potential impact. With a March 4th 10% U.S. tariff on certain energy products, like the 4 million barrels per day of Canadian crude oil flowing into the U.S. and turned into gasoline by Midwest refineries, state officials do expect some, quote, price increases and volatility at the gas pump if trade tensions escalate. One analyst telling us,
maybe to the tune of 5 or 10 cents a gallon, and that's with the economy where it was a month ago when we made those predictions.
Overall, there's the belief that if the Canadians were to try to turn off the oil tap, New York State's petroleum market is resilient to sources of disruption, including Canada. Electricity is the other big concern, since the Ontario Premier threatened at first a retaliatory surcharge, which was paused, and even a complete power cutoff from Ontario. The major concern seems to be grid reliability in the summer months, with Canada assisting in peak demand for all those air conditioners and cooling fans. But in summary for the U.S. energy tariffs, the state report says, quote, the uncertainty makes it difficult to actually forecast precise impacts. And while the U.S. 10% tariff is in place and energy imports are unchanged, the tariffs or extra cost are not yet showing up on energy supplier invoices.
Well, there certainly won't be a gold circle, but in a manner of speaking, this site will come full circle after 30 long years.
It's been a long time coming.
Now called the Shops at West Seneca, there's currently only a bank and a grocery store located on this 55-acre site near Slate and Ridge Roads, where weeds poke through the asphalt, upon which generations of shoppers once parked their cars. to patronize the former Seneca Mall, which opened in 1969 with some memorable stores. But by the early 1990s, its owners had built the Walden Galleria nearby. Stores emptied, the place pretty much left to mall walkers before this one-time retail beacon faded into oblivion.
It's taken, close to 30 years for something to happen. There have been lots of starts, lots of hopes in the past.
There was the ill-fated Seneca Place plan of a decade ago.
They had a very elaborate plan, but it would have involved the town investing tens of millions of dollars.
This site was even considered briefly for the new Bills Stadium. But finally, what has been an eyesore for decades was sold late last year for $22 million.
Yeah, it's going to be a large kind of retail plaza with stores, some of them quite large, around the outside, and then parking and some sort of drive-throughs on the inside. We're just happy that something will go there, and when people come into to West Seneca from the 90s, they'll actually see something very attractive.
The public will be able to learn more at the next Town Planning Board meeting that is scheduled for April 10th. On your side in West Seneca, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Tonight, Acting Mayor Christopher Scanlon delivering his State of the City address.
The state of our city is strong.
Looking to demonstrate he has the vision to serve a first official term in office.
But only by working together. Everyone in this room will we overcome the adversity we face and make it even stronger.
Scanlon seizing the opportunity to tease his plan to address the city's most significant financial issue in a $40 million budget deficit.
I stand before you today with great optimism. But make no mistake, we are at an inflection point in our city's history.
And revealing two ways he plans to do so. The first, a hotel tax that will take 3% from all city visitors. And the second, a new parking initiative that will see Buffalo get out of the parking business and sell all of its city lots. A move Scanlon believes could save millions.
We need a change in the way we budget and a change in the way we manage. And you will see that reflected in my upcoming budget proposal.
But despite warning of needing to make potential tough calls in the future, the acting mayor not mentioning what could be the toughest one of them all in raising property taxes, something we pressed him on after the address.
So it's tough to finalize what that might be, not knowing what's in that state budget, once we do have a closer idea and be able to communicate that.
Scanlon also not just focusing on where the city can improve, but touting what his administration has accomplished in their 5 months in office so far, from a record-breaking $110 million capital budget to winter response efforts and even pothole programs.
I have built my administration with a bold new approach to government.
But despite all the remaining unknowns, the acting mayor tonight still striking a note of confidence for the future.
We are equipped with the ideas and people to get it done.
Inside the SPCA serving Erie County, the treats are never ending, and neither are the comeback stories.
With this particular group of cats, we really, it was behavioral concerns more than anything else. They hadn't really been handled.
And for these furry friends, life looked a lot different just a few weeks ago. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Allison Keene was there to see it all.
A lot of fleas, just overall dirty conditions, thin, scared. They were definitely hadn't really left the house before.
After a group of 22 cats were rescued from what the SPCA called devastating living conditions, some are now ready for new homes. Dr. Keene says it's a turnaround that never gets old.
When they come in and they're so terrified and they're so scared and they're really struggling, and then to see them a couple weeks later, or we'll get videos from an adopter months later saying, hey, they're doing fantastic.
These cats' story, nothing new for the SPCA. Dr. Keene says that her team has seen an increase in neglect and hoarding cases.
Human mental health. That is the underlying problem in most of these situations.
Gina Latuca, Chief Communications Officer with the shelter, says that as the weather gets warmer, you may be able to smell neglect cases.
When we're talking about these hot summer days, we're talking about smells that in the winter you may not be smelling, but in the summer you could be across the street from a property and you can start smelling them.
From 5 older siblings,
4 brothers and 1 sister,
to the Lancasters starting 5, basketball
runs in Madison Francis's blood.
And four brothers especially are all in like the basketball field at one point, so I just grew up with basketball all my life.
The sport that she grew up around is now seeing her reach incredible heights at Lancaster. The senior has generated plenty of buzz this season. From signing to play Division I hoops at Mississippi State, to breaking records and nearly backboards with 2 in-game dunks this year.
Into words, it's surreal, to be honest.
Like, people know about her all across the country, and when she dunked during our senior game, and that hit the internet, and that hit SportsCenter, and that hit Mississippi State, it was just very surreal to see it tied together. It happened up in Lancaster. They're talking about it down in Mississippi State, and it's just been so cool to see her brand spread.
But as the final week of Francis's high school career progresses, her thoughts aren't on her brand, but on bringing a first basketball state title back to Lancaster, with the Legends set to play at States this weekend.
For the past couple of years, we only made it to regionals, and it was like last year we made it to states, and then this year we made it to states again. So it's just like every year we've gotten better and we've progressed along this journey.
A journey that for Francis started with playing on varsity as an 8th grader.
Every year she's gotten a bit better, and then our team has elevated with it.
And one she hopes as a senior ends by going out on top.
This past couple of days, that's all I've been like dreaming about, thinking about. And we all worked so hard to get to this moment. Everyone, works hard in practice every day. So it would just mean the world to me to, for everything, just to, sum up in like a perfect fairy tale, I guess.
On your side in Lancaster, Jonathan Acosta, Channel 2 Sports.
It's been life-changing for me. They have changed me.
7 years ago, Emily Monshine kickstarted work on Gigi's Playhouse in Buffalo, a place for those with Down syndrome to meet, attend classes, and have fun.
A small group of us got together, and here we are 5 years later, 20 programs growing every day. I'm really, really glad that this community's just really embraced us.
A 3rd grade teacher, Monshine said she was not originally called to working with those who have intellectual differences. But 10 years ago, that all changed.
When I had my second son, I learned at around 14 weeks that he would be born with Down syndrome. We did the non-invasive prenatal testing.
Scared and without much support, she grieved the life she thought her son would have.
It was really kind of dark and sad and not supportive and discriminatory, the information that I received during that time.
She says she now believes that he was meant to come into her life to show her her true purpose.
What he did for me was opened up a doorway to this whole community of people that I wasn't really connected with before him.
Her advocacy extends past Gigi's as well. Monshine helped get the Down Syndrome Awareness Bill passed in the state of New York.
10 years later, after that horrible prenatal diagnosis, we passed legislation in the state of New York that ensures that clinicians provide up-to-date current education and information around a diagnosis of Down syndrome.
She wanted to support women who are in a situation just like she was.
You just Google it online and you just see woman after woman talking about how ill supported they were during their pregnancy. So it was a long overdue thing that needed to happen.
As for what's next, Monshine is focused on her work to make the world a better place for her son and all those with Down syndrome.
I always make sure what I'm doing is for people with Down syndrome. That's it. And the rest just will fall into place wherever I'm meant to go next. If it's to stay here, it's to go elsewhere, do something else. I'm just dedicated to serving this community in whatever way that ends up being.